Donald played the riff for me on the phone, and I thought, we're going to have a great record. Then we got to the airport. He got some new tape recorder. He was testing it out and said, here, I made a demo with that riff, you know. And so I said, oh, cool, you know. So I get on my seat, I put on my Walkman, I put in the cassette. I listened to it, I'm like, oh, shit. This is a hit. We're going to have a hit. Oh, my God. Oh, it's really going to be great. Oh.
Welcome to the Rhymes with Green podcast. My name is Ryan Bussell, and I'm super excited for my guest today. He's a diegetic part of music history. If you've ever, played Guitar Hero World Tour and had trouble with that one song, "Don't Fear the Reaper," on the drums, or if you've ever seen SNL's Too Much Cowbell, you're probably familiar with this man's musical stylings. I'm proud to welcome Albert Bouchard to the podcast. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing great.
Awesome. So let's start at the very beginning. What kind of got you into music? What were some of like the early people that you listened to and that you even played?
Okay. Well, I was into music when I was just a baby, you know, really. I mean, I think the first time I really was aware of music, my mother worked for the FBI. And then she went from there to the Chicago Crime Commission. And she worked there she worked for the FBI for about 3 years, and then Chicago Crime Commission for about 3 years.
That's crazy.
And while she was there, of course, she was making good money, you know, working for the government, basically, and was single and, you know, didn't have much expenses. So she bought a ton of records. You know, she loved Bing Crosby was her favorite, but, you know, she also liked Benny Goodman, and, you know, she was in Chicago, so you know, Benny Goodman was the big thing there. So, and of course, Benny Goodman's drummer, in case anybody doesn't know, was Gene Krupa. So that was in the background, but I didn't really think about those records and like how they were made, or, you know, it was just like, you know, playing in the background of my childhood home. But when I was 3, I saw a parade. And I think maybe that was the first time I ever saw anybody actually playing music. You know, the idea that, oh, you could do something and the sounds come out. I was only 3, so I wanted a drum. I wanted to play the drums. That was my obsession. And my parents got me a drum, and some things happened that, you know, I was a naughty boy. Yeah.
So happy you had it, and then, oh man, I wish
I had it. Then I didn't have it. You know,
oh, you didn't have it. Did you? So then, what was like your first? So after that, then did you get like into music at school? Like, what was some of the early stuff that you were playing?
Yeah. I was into, you know, when I was in elementary school, there was a lot of songs that I liked that, you know, really, you know, sort of spoke to me, like Shop Around was a hit when I was in elementary school. And, you know, it's all about your mother, you know. My mama told me, you better shop around.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
I took that advice too.
So then, when it came time to like start getting into bands and stuff, what was like some of like that early stuff? Like, what were people into playing? Well,
I was thinking about this today, actually, and I forgot that I was doing this podcast. I was just thinking about it randomly, you know, like.
We'll cut that part.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about it because I'm going to be on this podcast. I had no idea what you were going to be talking to me about, so I don't know. But anyway, I was just thinking about how in the beginning, vocals didn't really, you know, they weren't important to me. I didn't know any of the singers. I didn't know any words. I didn't care about it. I only cared about the instrumental music. And so the first song that, you know, made me want to be in a band was the song called Walk Don't Run by the Ventures. It's instrumental, you know, it's That was the song. I heard that song, and it had a drum solo in the middle of the song. So I was like, I want to play that song. Who can I play it with? And of course, and I didn't have. I was by then. I think I had been playing in the elementary school band. Once a week, this guy come in smelling like alcohol, and trying to teach us play all together, the entire class. And I got to play the cymbals, or once in a while the drums. But at that same time, my cousin Teddy, who was a little bit younger than me, was a grade behind me, and his friend Eddie Basnat decided they were going to form a band because Teddy's dad was he was an insurance agent and a real estate and insurance is what his business was really, but he had a band. He'd played in the Army band during World War II. I said, I want to play with you guys, and they said, well, Teddy's, I know you play drums in the school band, but, we don't need a drum. Teddy's playing drums and Eddie's playing guitar. And my brother Joe said, I want to play too. And they said, well, we don't need a guitar. We got a guitar and we got a drum. Why don't you play trumpet? So Joe played trumpet. My Uncle Bill played trumpet too. Yeah. So Joe played trumpet. I played piano because I had taken piano lessons for about 4 years. So I could play a little piano. So that I had to play the piano before they would let me play the drums.
They make you start at the bottom rung.
Yeah, it was, and I resented it muchly.
Yeah, no, when you're not playing the thing that you want to play, you feel like you're like put somewhere, even though like the piano's totally not actually the bottom rung. It does so much, but
I'm so glad that, they did, that my mother made me play the piano because I've written a lot of songs. I mean, I wrote Astronomy on piano. Which is one of my favorite, my most popular songs that I've written.
Yeah. It's a great instrument for starting off, kind of like guitar. It's a very foundational instrument for figuring out what music is, like the language that is,
exactly,
words and all that.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at the time, but so I played piano, Teddy played drums, Eddie played guitar, and Joe played trumpet. And I actually got us our first gig. I talked my scoutmaster into letting us play for the Boy Scout dance. Our first 2 gigs, because we played and it was a big hit. There was probably 20 people there, but, then word had got out. Oh, you missed them. They played. They were great. So then the next time we had like 50 people, so.
Like legends overnight.
Yeah, just like that.
So then when did you guys get like around to starting to record your first album and kind of finding your sound?
Oh, first album. Well, a lot happened before that. We had this little band in elementary school. And then by the time
this was all in elementary school still?
Yeah. We were like, 11, 12 years old.
Wow.
So,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. When we got to high school, we started using the school's equipment to make demo tapes. And we would send them out to all the other schools or to Chamber of Commerce's. We played like block parties and anything we could get our hands on. We played I never went to a prom because prom season I would play like, 20 gigs, everybody's prom.
But that's super cool though, playing everyone else's prom instead of going to your own. Who needs that? Like, who can even remember? Like,
yeah.
So
it's true. And they never had us play at our own school. It was always, we'd go, 30 miles away, Yeah, we played all around upstate New York in high school. We did about 200 gigs, 4 years. So it's quite a bit. We played in the summertime. We play at the cottages. It's a big tourist area up there in the Thousand Islands where I'm from. So every summer, the town holds about permanent residents are about 1,500 people, but in the summertime it expands to about 20,000. So. Yeah,
Wow.
it's huge. Yeah, it gets big, and there's all these people, and there's lots of places to play. I mean,
Yeah.
I was so fortunate. There were so many bands up there. They got work. In the summertime. People didn't have DJs. I don't know if you could say the DJ killed the live performance thing, but it did a little bit.
It definitely changed things. It made it more accessible to people who weren't the people playing it to be able to play other people's music
Yeah, yeah,
for them.
it's true. It's true. A little bit more democratic that way.
Yeah.
So then I
All
went
right.
away to college. Okay, and I left my drums at home. I said, if I bring my drums to college, I'm gonna flunk out for sure. Because it's just, I already knew I could practice, you know, I could practice for hours and hours and forget to do my homework. It was happening in high school until I put the drums in the barn.
Yeah. What did you study in college?
I studied civil engineering.
Okay. That's not bad. That's a good thing to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, well, I didn't graduate because after the 6 months, my roommates and all the people in my dorm convinced me to bring my drums. You'll just play on the weekends in the common room. Come on, come on. Nobody else has drums. We need a drummer. There's all they were jamming in the common room without drums, and so they want begging me to bring them. I said, "Oh, okay, I'll bring them up." And of course, started playing, and I ended up playing gigs. After 2 years in college, it was the music that I was playing was completely different. It was a lot of improvisation, a lot of blues, a lot of some jazz. It was like just an expansion of what I was doing. And besides that, I was driving down to New York City when I wasn't playing to watch the stars. I go down and see Muddy Waters or Richie Havens or the band called the Blues Project, which had Steve Katz and Al Cooper. So there was a lot of stimulation there. And at the end of 2 years, the three of us, we had our little college band, and three of us dropped out to become professional musicians. So there was five in the group. So two guys stayed in school.
Sure.
That summer they had to go to summer school because we all flunked. All five of us flunked, but they stayed. They did summer school. They stayed in college, got their engineering degrees. And Don, who's now known as Buck Dharma, and Jeff Latham, who was also in our band, who's now an architect in Nogales, Arizona. He still plays music. He's in like 4 bands.
That's pretty cool. That you all kind of were able to, kind of figure it out from there. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot of
we
times.
dropped out and we started doing the rounds of auditioning for record companies in New York City. I mean, stuff happened in between. We tried to get a job in Rochester. I got in a band in Chicago that broke up. Don was installing antennas for TVs in Catholic schools.
So for a bit, y'all went and kind of got like some day jobs to.
Yeah, we got day jobs. There were other music jobs, and then I came down to the city and we met Sandy Perlman, who was at that point he was the student activities chairman, which was a student run a concert program at Stony Brook University, and he was a writer for Crawdaddy magazine. And so we came down, and he hooked us up. He started getting auditions for all the major, Columbia and Elektra and Atlantic, are some of the ones we auditioned for. And we ended up getting a record contract with Elektra. And Jeff Latham left. He wanted to be with his girlfriend in Ann Arbor. So he left, and then he got drafted.
What a series of events.
So, but Donald and I stuck with it, and we found Alan Lanier and Andy Winters was somebody that was a neighbor of Don of Buck Dharma, and so Andy played bass and Alan played guitar, and then we got Les Brunstein as our lead singer. Les was a songwriter who'd written. He was like a folkie, so he wrote songs for Peter, Paul, and Mary and various folk groups, and sort of novelty kind of songs. But he was talented. He had a way with the words. So so I had been writing songs since I was in high school for my high school band. So Les and I started writing songs for this band for Elektra, and then for some reason it's never quite clear. The story changes over time, but we decided we had to part ways with Les, in spite of the fact that he was the best singer among all of us. But he didn't like our material. I think that was one thing that was clear. So he had issues with the material that we were writing. So he left the band, and we needed a lead singer. And of course, I knew Eric Bloom because he played upstate in my hometown while he had a college band, and they would come. They did all the upstate circuit with all the places, and of course he came to Clayton because in the summertime it's a big tourist area and you could get gigs. So he played there. My brother heard him. I played with his guitar player in a different band of that his college band. So I had been hearing about, and Les Brunstein was also, he went to Hobart too. So everybody kept talking about Eric Bloom, Eric Bloom, Eric Bloom. So finally we met him, and when Les left, we all auditioned. We took a song that Les had been singing, and I sang it, and Don sang it, and Sandy Perlman sang it, and his buddy Richard Meltzer sang it, and then Eric sang it and killed it. So he's like, okay, you're going to be the singer.
Was it like a moment like you're all like, man, who's it going to be? And then you hear him and you're all just like, oh, that's him.
That's pretty much how it went. Yep.
That's crazy.
It's like, who, I don't know, Sandy, I didn't. Maybe it could work. He's so weird, maybe. And then Eric comes and it's like, oh yeah.
So the selection for the singer was just as much a choice for you guys as it was for the label. It wasn't just like you're like, this is our singer.
Oh no. The label had very little to do with this. As a matter of fact, they didn't like Eric. They didn't think he was any good. Which just shows you they didn't know. I think a lot of times, maybe Eric wasn't as handsome as Les. Les was very handsome. And Eric is kind of like a normal guy, like a little normal schmo. So his voice is great. I don't know why they just didn't feel it.
Just don't put him on the album.
So they let us continue making that record, or actually we recut the whole thing with Les singing, and then they dropped us. So, with Eric singing, not Les. But anyway, that was just as well because at the same time, we were having problems with Andy Winters as a bass player. So Andy, people that are like, they just can't help it. They just say these sarcastic things, and they think it's really funny, but and in general, I do too. But some people take offense at that kind of stuff,
The ball busters of the world, but they take it too far.
Yeah. So I think that Andy was a ball buster, and it got us in trouble with some of the executives at the label.
Oh no.
So I always appreciate sarcasm, but I was a teacher for 31 years. I left. I sort of put music on the back burner, and I became a school teacher, and that was like, no sarcasm in the classroom. That's a no-no. That you could get written up for that, and eventually you'd get taken out of the classroom if you kept it up.
Goes without saying, but you were probably a music teacher, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing that because of the way the union, like they changed the rules now. But when I started back in 1987, if you if you didn't have seniority and you were working in a school and somebody else from another school had been excess because of budget or whatever, or maybe they were too sarcastic, you know, any issue they got, if they got, it's very hard to fire somebody, but so they would let them go. They would get half pay, they would get half their salary, and they would be a floater. And they would go around trying to find another job in another school. So if you were a junior teacher, you could get bumped by these floaters. So I wasn't allowed to teach music because when there's a budget issue, that's the first thing they cut.
It doesn't matter what your history is. It's not like, this guy, like, it doesn't matter.
Does not matter. I would get bumped. So I had to teach out of license. I taught math. I taught science, physics. I taught English, which I was terrible at, and social studies, which I like that one. I like math the best because it's like I'm just good at it. So. But and then ultimately became assistant principal.
Wow.
So, yeah, because I couldn't teach music, so they made me assistant principal.
We don't know where else to put him. Send him
Yeah.
top.
He can be an assistant principal. He'll be in charge of all the other teachers. So that was a good job, but actually it was stressful, and I didn't like it. That was an important lesson. I realized that you may be good at something, but if you don't, it might not bring you happiness, even though you're good at it, and you can make more money. But, it was, because I grew up, my family was very modest. We didn't have a lot of money. My dad had he didn't go to college. But he had some experience in the merchant marine as a electrician. So he had some skills, but he also had 7 kids. So we didn't have a lot of money growing up. So I think I was kind of obsessed. That's why I wanted to be a civil engineer. I thought, I can make a lot of money with that, And then then I was a musician, didn't make any money for about 7 years until Reaper, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
So you guys, we'll go back to the music then. So you guys get kicked off that label because they don't like the lead singer for no reason, because this guy's incredible. So then how do you guys get to your next label and start getting back to the albums?
Well, the first thing is that we decided we needed a new bass player. And so I called up a couple guys that I knew, and neither of them could do it. They also, it didn't sound, they had work up there. One guy was a roadie for an all-female band, which he seemed to enjoy quite a bit. So it's like, nah, I'm not giving up this steady paycheck, these hot chicks, man, no. Out of desperation, I called my brother and I said, "Hey, you want to play bass with my band?" He's like, "I'm a guitar player." I said, "I know you have a bass. I saw you. You played bass in that Latin jazz band in college, didn't you?" He's like, "Well, yeah. I haven't done it in a couple of years." I said, "Well, start practicing. We need a bass player, and we got a gig opening for Led Zeppelin."
When you said that, I'm sure he was like, oh my
That's
gosh,
it.
right
that
away.
was it. Okay, I'm coming. I'll be there in a couple of days. So it took him like a week to get down to the city, because he was in upstate New York and he had to take care of stuff and his girlfriend and all this other stuff. So a week later he shows up, because the gig with with Led Zeppelin was not going to be till the end of the month, and this was like the beginning of September or something, so it wasn't going to be for 3 or 4 weeks. So he had plenty of time to practice. So by the time he got there, the gig had evaporated, and so we didn't have that gig. And then, but we had the electric contract, and it was still, it was like, okay, we just going to sign off on the album, and the album will tour the album. Joe claims it was the very next day. I think it was like a week later, but it was very soon after the gig fell through. We got a letter saying that we'd been dropped from the label.
In your heads, you're like, it's okay, we still got this.
I said, it's okay, we still got our equipment. We can sell that. No, Joe said, I have never been in a band that didn't make money. We are going to make money. I said, okay. What's your idea? He said, well, I can get us some gigs up in my college, up in Ithaca. And I said, okay, that's good, So he got us a gig for doing that. And in the meantime, he'd met somebody in the town where we lived in Great Neck who said, I could get you guys gigs. My brother talker, So his name was Richard Dostal. And so Richard started booking gigs for us. So all of a sudden we were playing like every weekend just about. And then Richard got us a gig with this other guy, Phil King. And Phil was a gambler, so we played every town that had a racetrack or casino or anything like that. We were there, and he booked us for 2 years. And kept us working constantly, and that was good. I mean, we would play 3 or 4 sets, and each set we would slip in one of our original songs, or maybe 2, and we'd say, hey, this is a new song by the Byrds, or this is a song by the Grateful Dead, and it was one of our songs. So we kept playing originals, but we pretended like they weren't ours.
Did anyone ever call you out on it? Like, did one of the members ever show up?
No. And we got away with it. But and so we started doing auditions for various people. And finally we got an audition for the executives at Columbia Records. And they liked it. And we scheduled another audition a couple of weeks later for Clive Davis. And that's how we got signed. It was with Clive.
Wow.
So.
This is the first album that you guys come out with.
When the day that we signed the contract, we changed our name to Blue Öyster Cult. So our first record was called Blue Öyster Cult because it was weird enough. We didn't need to have a weird title. The name of the band was weird enough.
Two dots over the O.
So the very first gig that Richard Dostal got us, let's go back a little bit. The very first gig that Richard Dostal got us was for a party in a summer camp that had been closed in the fall because Joe came in the fall. So the first gig that he got us was at this summer camp that was closed for a bunch of people, a private party. And one of the people at the private party was David Lucas, who was a famous jingle producer, produced a lot of well-known jingles at the time, for radio and TV. He heard us and said, oh, I really like your sound, you from New York? Oh, yeah, I'm from New York, blah, blah, blah. So he invited us to come to his studio and make a demo to help us get a deal. So I think that was in October, I believe. And then in January, we went into his studio. We cut 4 songs. And that's what they started bringing around to the companies. And apparently one of the songs called The Last Days of May, which is on the first record, caught the ear of some people at Columbia, and that's how we got the initial Columbia audition before we played for Clive. And that song, the demo, is what is on the record. It's the same thing. Yeah, we didn't even remix it. It's just the demo. It came out great. It was like we'd been playing it live for a while, so and David Lucas like added his little magic, his background harmonies and
Sprinkle.
little sprinkles, magic fairy dust, and it was we knew it was a great demo. I mean, it was like, wow, okay, if this doesn't do it for us, I don't know what. But it did it for us, and and they still play that song to this day. A little bit of water goes a long way, 'cause it's hard. Three good buddies who were laughing and smoking in the back of a rented Ford. They couldn't know they weren't going far. So it's a true story about a Stony Brook student who was murdered in Arizona in a drug deal, and I remember exactly how it happened. We were in a house in Great Neck. We had a band house in Great Neck, New York, and on Long Island, and I think maybe Joe had come. Or either he was there or he was on his way. And Don came to me and he said, "Hey, I got an idea for a chord progression that's really sad." I'm like, "Oh, yeah. We should write about Bill Tate." Bill Tate was the Stony Brook student. And it was kind of a whole thing, that Newsday featured for almost a month. They would have another story about some aspect of the killing, and they caught the guys, and and it was it a drug web in Stony Brook, or was it just one kid, which it was just one kid. We used to go to Bill's house, and hang out. After concerts we'd go and get high and listen to music and laugh at each other and stuff. He's just a regular kid, but somebody had talked him into going and doing this drug deal. It was going to get, it's too good to be true. It was like, oh, he's going to make a lot of money now, and of course, it was a setup. So anyway, so he wrote it, and it got us the deal. So that was the first record, and that was, there was Cities on Flame. I can play with a pick. So that was, we wrote these songs. Some of them were, filled with emotional content, and others were just like really crazy guitar riffs that were hard to play.
Well, that's like kind of like one of the things that comes to mind for me when I think a lot of Blue Öyster Cult music is like that really like guitar forward sound. It's almost like its own lead voice in addition to the singing. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, because you play guitar yourself. Were you like playing guitar as well behind the scenes when it came time to like write music, or were you usually on the drums in the room and other people on guitar? What's kind of like that writing stuff like?
In the beginning, I was always on the guitar. I mean, I even though I would write songs on the piano, I would not show them to I didn't have confidence in my piano playing to show them to. I'd figure out how to play it on guitar and then show it to them, and so. I did write a lot of the material in the early days. I mean, for the Elektra record, I think I wrote every song but two. One was written by the bass player Andy, and the other was written by Alan Lanier.
Wow.
Who had moved to keyboards by then. But then when we got the Columbia thing, of course, one of the things was we got the deal on the strength of the song that Donald wrote by himself, or, with my, a little bit of my suggestions, I mean, I didn't really write anything on it other than to say, it should be about Bill Tate, and here's the Newsday article, and look at this, so I mean, but Donald came up with all the words and all the music.
I was in the room when he thought of the idea. I get 10%. Never mind. Bad joke.
Well, with Dennis Dunaway, because Alice Cooper, they wrote it all together, and Dennis would say, "Write a word, get a third."
Words to live by. I'm gonna get it tattooed.
I guess I should get a third of. I don't know. I don't think I wrote a word on it, but I did help him write it.
Sure.
I mean, he'd never written a song before. I don't care, because I still get what I get from Reaper, and if I hadn't had done that, Reaper wouldn't exist.
So we mentioned it a few times now. You guys had other albums along the way. You had some other singles that you put out. One that you wrote more prominently, which was "Hot Rails to Hell," which I like a lot. It has a very different sound than a lot of other songs that people might be more familiar with.
Yeah, actually, I did not write that. That's my brother Joe wrote that.
Really? Oh man! See,
Yeah,
you can't trust Wikipedia. You can't trust
He wrote
Wikipedia.
words and music, so
Don't trust Wikipedia, people.
yeah. I wrote "Cities on Flame" with the crazy guitar lick.
Lots of fire and brimstone with the Bouchard brothers.
Oh yeah. Joe said every song I write is about going to hell.
Is there like a reason for that? Do you like a lot of that like Johnny Cash kind of like heavier vibe?
I do. I love Nick Cave, and all of his stuff. I love every kind of music. I've been getting into Chinese music now. I went to China for the summer, and it's a whole different. It's very soft and sweet and. Very melodic and, it's, but there's still some, okay, so here's my favorite kind of music.
Sure.
It's music that starts out very sweet and nice and all of that. And then all of a sudden it's like, the monster comes in.
I love music like that as well, especially when I was like in high school and stuff. I got really into what they called like the emo music and stuff like that.
Emo. Yeah, exactly. It's like
yeah. You kind of let it simmer on the surface, then all the emotion comes out, all that stuff. What kind of bands are you into? You mentioned that the Chinese music that you're getting into, but like what kind of bands today are you interested in?
Well, let's see. There's a lot of female fronted bands that are great. Rolling Quartz. The Japanese female bands. There's Rolling Quartz. There's what's it called? Baby Metal. And
Yeah.
I love The Warning. The Warning.
The
Mexican girls. 3 Mexican sisters. I like Evanescence. What's her name? She's on the cover of Rolling Stone, and she should be, man. She's Evanescence is fucking great. They're great, man.
They're awesome. People love to sometimes bring up that one song, Wake Me Up Inside, and everyone always likes that song in particular. But they have so many good songs. Like if you're just willing to just forget that like is like the only thing that you've heard of them, because it was what was on the radio. They're a band that has like so much depth.
I love that song so much. That would be enough.
So how do we get to Don't Fear the Reaper? Like, is that like a group effort or like who's concocting that?
My biggest contribution to that song was I was the first person to hear the riff because he called me up when the minute he wrote it and said, "Hey, I got this riff. I think it's really good." It goes like this.
Who's he?
Whoa! Oh,
who was that came to you?
Don Buck Dharma. Don called me up. I was actually working on another song called Imaginos at the same time, and he came up and he played that for me. And I'm like, wow, that's a. I wish I could. I got something like that.
He's
I
like,
played him my thing, what was it? So I played him that, and he's like, "Oh, that's good too.
yeah,
You're gonna have a great record, man."
that's funny.
We did.
That's incredible that like you both had like something to show each other that both end up spawning things. Because I think you said that was Imagino, right? Which is
Imaginos, yeah.
yeah, which is the title of an album that you guys a few albums that you had,
Yeah.
but one in particular for the Cult. We can't talk about the percussion of "Don't Fear the Reaper" without the cowbell.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta mention the cowbell. Was that you on that, or is there somebody else that gets those credits?
People say they played it, but I know I did. And Joe would back me up because he was there. And you know what? My memory is not that great at sometimes. And Joe's is he almost always Joe is right. If we ever disagree, I just go with him because since we were kids, he's got the memory of an elephant. But I do remember what happened because Donald played the riff for me on the phone, and I thought we're going to have a great record. Then we got to the airport because we had a week off or something, and he got some new tape recorder. He was testing it out, and he came up with the riff. So we got to the airport to go to Seattle. It was our next gig, and he gave me a cassette and said, "Here, I made a demo with that riff, And so I said, "Oh, cool, So I get on my seat, I put on my Walkman, I put in the cassette. I listened to it, I'm like, "Oh, shit. This is a hit. We're going to have a hit. Oh, my God. Oh, it's really going to be great." Oh, so from the minute I heard it till after it was recorded, my everything was crystal clear. It was just like, this is what I wanted my whole life. I wanted to hear my song on the radio. It's going to happen. So, and I got to Seattle and I had a girlfriend and I said, "Monica, listen to this the song that Donald wrote in it." And she listens. She's like, I said, "What's the matter?" She goes, "Are you breaking up with me?" I said, "No, this is Don's song. He's right. It's not a breakup song. No. She's like, "Oh my God, it's so beautiful. Oh my God, you guys are going to have a hit." I said, "I know."
That's awesome. Like so at that time then it was just him playing guitar and singing I guess an early version of the chords. Do you like sit down at the drums and like does it like come to you? Is it kind of like divine inspiration that you're like, this is like I've been preparing for this moment?
Well, yes, but when we got into the studio, Donald, or when we practiced. We went into a rehearsal place and practiced for a couple of weeks because we did not want to blow this. This was like, we realized that Columbia had doubled our budget. We were working with one of the best engineers around. We knew the cards were all coming. We were all coming aces. It was like, okay, we just gotta. Yeah, the cards. Yeah, but it's true. It was like everything was lining up for us, and I was like, and the album before it, which was a live record, we got all the best new band polls. We were number one, and it was like the time was. I could tell the time was right. All we had to do was come up with something that was really catchy, and I thought, oh, we've got the catchy thing, we've got the timing, so. As far as the drum part goes, I had an idea to play something, and Donald had a different idea. And he was like, play like Mike Clark and the Byrds, because I wanted it to sound like a Byrd song. I said, "Oh, but Mike Clark is just so white." God rest his soul, Mike Clark. Rest in peace, brother on the drums. But it was not funky at all. It was like, and I'm like, this riff has got this funk built into it. He's like, no. You play straight, just like Mike Clark. So I did. I played the Mike Clark beat, but then when it got to the Okay, so that part, I said, I knew there was an extra track. We recorded a trumpet part in that section, and band didn't like it, so we were going to erase the track. So I said, let me put a triangle on that section. And they said, what are you talking about? What do you mean triangle? How's the part going to go? I said, it's going to go like this. Ding. Ding. So that was what the triangle part was going to be. It's just going ding on the last note of that riff. And so David Lucas said, okay, you can, that can work. You can put that on there if you want to put it on there, But can you put a cowbell in the verses? I'm like, what's that I was in the studio. What's that you said? I thought I heard you say put a cowbell in the verses. He goes, yeah, a cowbell. I go, really? He's like, yeah. Just indulge me, okay? I said, what do you want me to play? He said, just play quarter notes. Just dunk, 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 dunk. That's simple. Anybody can do it. He said, okay. So I said, but I'm going to play triangle in the middle. And he goes, oh, okay, you put the triangle, we'll put it all on the same track. So I did it. We got to the first, where it goes, a little break before, and I said, stop the tape, stop. Okay, that didn't sound cool out here. How does it sound in there? And Donald says, I don't know if this part is working. David's like, oh, just try muting it with your hand. So I said like this, and he goes, no. Just put some tape on it. So I put some tape on it, and I play it. And I said, I don't know. You play the track, record it with the track, stop the tape. I don't know. I got an idea. Instead of using a drumstick, I'll use a mallet. So I had like this soft mallet, and I boom, 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 boom. So I put it down, and I said, okay, that sounds okay to me. And I said, what do you think, Don? Don says, yeah, it's good. David's like, you're going to use a mallet on that? That's not how you play a cowbell. I said, but it sounds good. Who cares? He said, okay. So, and so we still hadn't got past the first verse. So David said, you know what? I want to play that guiro. I said, guiro? First you want a cowbell, now you want a guiro. He goes, it's only going to be in one spot, in between the first and second verse. It's just in there and gone. So, okay. So he came out, and Don said, you know what? I want to play a vibroslap on the last note of the guitar solo. So it's all there. It's all on one track. We did it in one take.
In one take.
The three of us in the room we're on the same mic.
And so you're all just like standing there with like 100 different props all around you, like ready to
that's the other thing, is that when he said to play a cowbell, they didn't have any cowbells in the studio. I didn't have one. We didn't have it. So his studio was 2 blocks away. We were on 44th Street, which was the record plant. He was on 46th Street, 2 blocks away. So he just ran to his studio and came back with this big box full of his toys. So all of this stuff was his. Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. So you guys got to play with stuff while you were making music, a whole bunch of different stuff going on. You guys would end up having other hits as well. Stuff that you've done with other groups. You've been in other bands called the Brain Surgeons, as well as the Dictators. What's some of the highlights of those two?
The Brain Surgeons was really just being frustrated. I was teaching, and I had an idea that my role in the music business was going to be as a producer. I was going to find A&R producer kind of person. I was going to find young bands and help them, get their act together. And so So I was doing that. I was going out to the clubs and getting leads on this one and that one and well, and actually, what really started me thinking along this line was because I dropped out of college and I was going to be a teacher. I couldn't actually be a teacher until I got a college degree. So I went back to college, this time to study music, not engineering. And so I went to Hunter College and I played in the Hunter College Jazz Band. And I had my music theory teacher ran the jazz program, and he said, listen, my drummer just graduated, so I need a drummer. Can you call me? Do you think you can play jazz? I said, I played jazz before I played rock. I mean, when I was like 12 years old, I was playing jazz. I had a subscription to Downbeat all the way through high school. Who you want me to play? Ed Thigpen, Max Roach, Elvin Jones. I can play them all. So I said, yeah, of course I can play jazz. Yeah. I probably played all these songs already in one of the bands, maybe a band with my brother. So I get to the first, I think it was held on a Saturday or something. I get to the first class and there's 7 drummers, including myself. And we're supposed to play 8 songs for our final concert. So I'm like, how's that going to work? You're going to have 7 drummers play? It's going to be too much drums. And it's like, no, each drummer's going to have 1 song. I said, oh, okay.
That he didn't tell you that, huh?
That's an easy grade, but yeah, I'm just like not feeling it, Yeah. I look around and so they start one drum after another, and one guy's playing. I noticed that the teacher is playing the piano, Professor Harris, and he's playing bass with his left hand, and there's no bass. There's a saxophone, there's a trumpet, there's a flute, there's a whole bunch of people. There's a couple guitar players, no bass. I said, hey, I see a upright bass over there. I can play bass. Would you be okay with me playing bass? He goes, give it a try. Hey. So I pick up my bass. I start playing. I'm like trying to hit I'm just playing any note I can except trying to get to the root note every time the chord changes, at least for a second.
Yeah.
And afterwards, he's like, hey, you sound pretty good on bass. I said, well, I've done it before. I don't think I can play a whole show with this bass, though. It's killing my hands. And he says, oh, the string's too high. I said, no, it's my right hand. My right hand is trying to get a sound out of this thing. It's like, I have an electric bass at home. Could I bring that? He goes, oh, yeah, of course. We got a little amp over here. So I played electric bass in the jazz band, and one of the drummers had a hardcore group, and they were signed to Roadrunner. And he said, well, they gave us a record deal, but they won't let us make a record unless we have a producer. You think you could do that? I said, yeah, let me go talk to them, So I came, and Monty Connor, who was a big Blue Öyster Cult fan, was the A&R guy, and he's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, you do these guys, you can do Voivod and Low Mito and all these other bands, I'm like, oh, okay, so they really encouraged me to become a producer. So when I was still working at the school, so I did a bunch of those records. I think the last one was in 1990. I produced Maria Excommunicata, which was an all-girl goth band in 1990.
Wow.
So they were way ahead of their time. They were too far. They ended up breaking up, but I produced a record for them for Megaforce, for Johnny Z. So
that's pretty incredible, though.
After and every band broke up. They all broke up before they could ever really achieve any kind of, success, So
What's a bit of advice that you would have for like young musicians to maybe get through like that initial phase where the first time like things really get hard?
okay, well, I would say this. It's not a race, it's a marathon. So you gotta, and it's not even a race at all, because a race, it's all about yourself. Whereas a band, it's a team sport. It's all about the community. And so you gotta find people that you can stand to be around for a long time. Because you might have to work at it for 10 years before you have success. So, I mean, that's the difference between the bands that I produced and the band that I was in. Because we just hung in there, I mean, when, we got dropped from the label, we lost gigs, people would promise stuff and then flake out,
Yeah.
So that's my advice is you've got to find a way to stick with it. Because if you stick with it, you can make it, I guarantee it,
Absolutely. And before we hit the end of this podcast, what's like a quick fun story that you have that's like a deep cut?
Oh God, all my stories are so complicated. I'll tell you this, that once we got a gig playing as Chuck Berry's backup band, and I got into an argument with the club owner about some people wanting to use my drums. He was like, "They've got to use your drums, blah, blah, blah." It was blood, sweat, and tears. And so I said, "Well, listen, I'll let him use my drums, but he's got to come and talk to me personally." And that was a guy named Bobby Colombi was the drummer. And so Bobby came, we had a nice conversation. I said, "Go." He said, "If anything happens, I'll either replace it or I'll fix it. Don't worry. I'm not going to fuck up your thing." So I said, "Great." Really solid guy. So I ran into him a few times in the village. He lived in Greenwich Village, and over the years. And it was like 2 years later, we're auditioning for Clive Davis in this sterile office room. There's 4 chairs, and we set up. We sound check. Clive walks in. Behind him walks Patti Smith, who was Alan Lanier's girlfriend at the time. Harry Nilsson, who I don't know, but I've, just admired his stuff. And behind Harry, Bobby Colombi.
That's a big lineup.
We passed the audition. So, yeah, you never know. We got fired from the club owner was so pissed off he fired us that night. After I let the guy use my drums. But it was okay because I had a relationship with him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's crazy. I mean, I'm on your side with that. Screw that club owner, man. I mean, like, that's your stuff, not his. And he absolutely should. And it's awesome, though, that, like, you made that connection and we're able to kind of.
Yeah, we're still friends. We're still friends all these years later. So.
That's awesome. So if people want to get some eyes on you these days, where can they find you?
Well, I'm going to be in the New Hope Inn in like this hotel in New Hope, Pennsylvania on Saturday, playing this guitar, playing Blue Öyster Cult hits and Imaginos. I have 3 Imaginos records, Imaginos 1, Imaginos 2, Imaginos 3. We're going to be playing songs from each one of those records. We're not going to play the whole record because it's just too... I only have an hour to go, so I'm just play a few songs from each one. I'm going to play all the Blue Öyster Cult hits and some surprises too. And also on that same show is Joe Sarasano, who he did vocals on the original Blue Öyster Cult version of Imaginos, and after that started a band called Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing some stuff with him, and he's doing some solo stuff. I'm doing some solo stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Any Christmas music too?
I have a Christmas song, but I'm not going to play it.
It's too early still. It's
early.
It's not December yet.
Before Thanksgiving. Come on.
That's true. I'm on your side as well with that. Anything after Thanksgiving, bring on the Christmas music.
Yeah, that's right. Song. Bring it on, and then get it out.
Yeah, exactly. 1 month of it.
I have a whole. Wait. I have a whole Christmas record. I did this with Keith Roth, who's way before the Dictators.
Oh, turn it upside down.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. There we go. That's what we're bumping. What's it called?
Christmas. It's called it's Christmas Again. It has Blue Coupe, my band with Dennis Dunaway and my brother Joe, and Tish and Snooky, and then it has all the Dictators on here too. So Andy Chernoff, not as the Dictators. This is like 4 years before I joined the Dictators. So
nice. And then
it has all of the guys, Keith and Ross and Andy and.
Nice. Do you have any Dictator shows coming up in the near future?
Yes, and then the week after, I'm playing in Brooklyn at TVI.
At TVI?
With a band called The Ritualist. I said, the Dictators and The Ritualist. Sounds great.
You guys are summoning something. Don't go to the back rooms after the show. There's going to be demons. All right. And make sure you like and subscribe. I almost forgot that part. Can't forget. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow the podcast for more. And
I have a podcast.
You have a podcast?
Not
What's
a
your
podcast. I have a vlog. It's called Most Cowbell. Yeah, I'm about to start my 10th season, 10 years of vlogging.
More cowbell.
Most Cowbell.
Most cowbell.
Yeah, more than more. More than more.
And is that on YouTube or Instagram?
It's on YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube Most Cowbell.
Yeah,
there. So you subscribe to the Rhymes with Green podcast, then you go right over there and you subscribe to Most Cowbell. All right, Albert, thank you so much for coming on my podcast tonight. It's been great speaking with you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.